get into Alaska, there are parts where a human footprint has never been made. And when we get to areas that are remote and you get the chance to see all that raw beauty for yourself. Alaska is unrepentant in its size, its mass, its raw beauty. It's just, that's all there is to it. It's very unpolished.
You see right when you come into Sumdum Glacier, if you're talking about up on the cliffs there. And it was named actually for the native expression that they said sounded something like a glacier calving off, and it said Sumdum, you know, when it was moving. But a hanging glacier is simply one that doesn't reach the bottom, and usually they're originally going into a much larger glacier. So when the ice melts back, there's a cliff there between the hanging glacier and the main valley. That can make a beautiful waterfall.
Sumdum Glacier once touched the tide. It was once a tidewater glacier. As we approached it today and looked at its beauty, it has been pushed back into the mountain and is now a hanging glacier. At one time it filled that entire chute, and the Tlinkits named it for the beauty of the sound that the glaciers make. The wilderness area was set aside in 1980 by Congress, and so it is a protected area. The very same glacier that made Tracy Arm made Endicott. So all that beautiful wild nature is protected. There's no logging, there's no building, there's no development in this area. All around us in Endicott, we were seeing the beautiful destruction of the glaciers, and it created some very unique forms. So when we were in Endicott, surrounded by that beauty, the mountaintops that you could see that had the very sharp point, they escaped the grounding of the glacier.
I'm very passionate about this place because it still exists, and a lot of places in the lower 48 don't have such expansive wilderness. We're part of a contiguous unity of 3 other parks in the US and Canada, and it's the second biggest wild protected area in the world, and second only to Antarctica. So to come to a place where you can really feel alone and really try to connect with the environment and with nature, it's a really unique opportunity here. And to share the story of change here, that's another, since it's the fastest glacial retreat in the world, you see huge changes, you see amazing wildlife, and you can really feel at peace when you're out there.
Before we even began our journey into the wilderness area, we were on the backside of Harbor Island. And Harbor Island holds a very important part of harbor seal's history. Harbor seal females will go back into Endicott to have their pups. But Harbor Island is where they bring them out and rest Those moms are very, very tired after giving birth and sustaining these pups for a couple weeks until they get big enough. So Harbor Island is a very important part of that seal's life.
Pretty much shapes itself. It's shaped by dynamic forces that are coming from below the surface as well as above. So tectonic plates shape the mountains, glaciers carve out, the fjords and all the cirques and all the beautiful scenery that we have here.
Different for everyone. For me, it's remote and it's just raw and it's gorgeous and it's stunning and it reminds you just how small we really are. That might sound odd. You may not think that being reminded how small you are makes you feel grand, but it does.
A fjord is actually only along the coastline because it has to be seawater that floods into a glacially deepened channel. So a glacier has carved a U-shaped valley, much like a block U from a university, into the shoreline, possibly above sea level originally because the sea level was lower when water was held up on the land than the ice. Remember that ice will float with about only 10 to 15% above water level, so it can carve actually well into the sea since it sinks deeper than the surface.
It's the first place I've ever been where nature still rules, and we're not in charge. And it's its own entity. And I think that's a really unique quality.
That glacier has a pull and you want to get closer and you want to know and you almost want to touch it. But when you're looking at it from the waters and you're just looking up, all you can do is look up. And you got to make sure to look around because sometimes you'll find the tiniest bit of life just clinging to the mountainside.
Alaska is the definition of frontier, not wilderness, but frontier, because there's so much that is still happening here.
tell you what drew me is just the thought of being in such a beautiful and unique landscape. I think a lot of people are attracted by the mystery of Alaska. It's so vast, so alluring, so beautiful, so many unique landscapes that you can see nowhere else on Earth.
We traveled through the Endicott Arm. What was waiting for us at the end was the Dawes Glacier. Now the Dawes Glacier is just a little bit bigger than the Sawyer Glacier. It is 22 miles long. Now the face of the glacier will meet us with a half-a-mile smile. And that half mile has varying degrees of heights and pinnacles and seracs. So from the water's top up, we were greeted with 250 feet, 300, even 400 feet. This Dawes Glacier is 22 miles long, and it connects to the Stikine ice field.
You also, of course, are going to notice the icebergs. Many of them are extremely blue, and that's because they came from the interior of the glacier. Up near the top where the ice is fractured, there's lots of air pockets and cleaved areas where air can get in. The light refracts in all directions, it's white. But when it gets sealed up, when you seal the cracks, when you seal the fractures, what you get is the absorption of most wavelengths of light, and the result is only blue, the shorter wavelengths that are refracted, bent, that is, back to you.
Well, I'm thankful that we actually are part of the National Park Service, so it is protected and will be protected. And this is the 50th year of the Wilderness Act, and it protects this land indefinitely to remain wilderness.